Yeah, yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball at the bar with Calvin and Barry. So put a tip in the jar, cause these dudes can really fill it up. Whether it's buckets you need or just a beer in a cup. We're here for fresh conversations, got some delicious libations. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. My boys got you covered like you being guarded by paying. From the glove to the claw and everyone else in between. Calvin and Barry got everything that you need. For sure. So sit back, relax, because we're starting the show. It's basketball at the bar. Grab your drinks and let's go. Yeah. Grab a drink and let's go. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Calvin and Barry. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Let's get it.
What up, Barflies? Welcome to Basketball at the Bar. Join us live every weekday for the best NBA podcast here on YouTube, where the takes are hot and the drinks are cold. There's no dress code, and you can take us wherever you go. So just pull up a stool, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Basketball at the Bar. Grab your drinks, and let's go, Calvin. Happy Monday, everybody. I see Stephen Rose here, Gothen. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend watching some NBA basketball, right, Cal?
Some pretty good games to watch this weekend.
Great games. First week of the NBA playoffs. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. We're going to start off with breaking down all the games that happened on Saturday. We have 4 games. The Jazz at the Mavericks, the Timberwolves at the Grizzlies, the Raptors at the Sixers, and the Nuggets at the Warriors. Then we're going to go into Sunday's 4-game breakdown. Hawks at Heat, Nets at Celtics, Bulls at Bucks, Pelicans at Suns. And then we're going to give you guys a quick little preview in today's games. There are 3 games on the schedule. The Raptors, the Jazz, and the Nuggets all play today. They are all on the road. They're all trying to get back into the series or get up another game in the series. And then we're going to talk about some injury updates, what's going on with Imani Bates. And we're going to end the show today, as always, with Q&A. You guys, the Barflies here. Right, Cal?
Basketball, more basketball. That's what's on the menu.
Lots of basketball, so hope you guys are ready. Grab your drinks and let's go. All right, Calvin. So, first game on Saturday. It was an early game, or for us anyways, very early. Yeah. The Utah Jazz go to Dallas and take on the Luka Doncic-less Mavericks and win 99-93. Calvin, this game was much closer than I anticipated.
It was much closer. I give a lot of credit to the Dallas Mavericks, who, you know, almost every team, every good team in the NBA has 3 studs on their team, right? Most other teams have 2. Mm-hmm. Dallas only has 1. I mean, they have some really, really good players, right? But I'm talking about star-level players.
They've
only got 1, and he's not playing anymore. So they should be getting beaten by 10 points, I think, even at home. But give them a lot of credit. They stuck with the hard defensive game plan that they've had all year long. Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie were really, really good down the stretch. They hit a few big threes there late in the game to get back, make this a 4-point game a couple of times. But the Jazz were too much for them at the end.
Yeah, they were. You know, if this was a game last season, Utah probably would have won by 30 when they were actually a good team. And, you know, not that they're a bad team at this point, but they just really have underperformed this season. And especially in this game for me, you know, 32 points by Donovan Mitchell here. Bogdanovic, another 26 points for him. Not too much off the bench. Jordan Clarkson only had 10 points in this game. That's pretty surprising to me. And then the guy that really didn't show up offensively is Rudy Gobert. I mean, he had 17 rebounds in this game, 3 blocks. He's done his normal, usual thing on the defensive end of the floor, but only 5 points. Didn't make a single field goal in this game. All those came from the free throw line.
Yeah, thank goodness for Bojan Bogdanovic, right? Because otherwise the Jazz don't win this game. I'm definitely calling out Rudy Gobert. It's funny, during the telecast of this game, I forget who the broadcasters were, but the color commentator at one point made the statement that Rudy Gobert was dominating this game without a single field goal. And that is so far from the truth. I mean, yes, he did have 17 points and 3 blocks, which, you know, when you're a multiple 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner. That's what you expect to bring. But this guy's going to make over $40 million next year. And if you're supposed to be the number 2 and you're putting out all these comments about how people are trying to break us up, they don't appreciate me and Donovan together, you've got to play bigger in these moments. I'm sorry. You just absolutely have to. You're the biggest guy on the floor. You should be totally dominating inside, offensive rebounds, putbacks, all that stuff. I'm not asking for 20 points a game out of this guy, but you've got to play bigger. And then Mike Conley is another guy that they need to play much better as well. 6 of 12 from the field. It's good percentage-wise, but he didn't really show up until the fourth quarter. Only 13 points in this game, and he had more turnovers than assists. They're going to skate their way through this series without Luka Doncic that way, but they're not making it past anybody else with those types of numbers.
Yeah, and Royce O'Neal only 3 points as well. When you have 8 points combined from 2 of your starters, it does not look good. I know they traded Joe Ingles. He's not on this team anymore, but this team is relatively healthy as of right now, which the Dallas Mavericks are not. They're missing their superstar player, and they only lost by 6 in this game. Dorian Finney-Smith, 14 points. Reggie Bullock, haven't seen that guy in a while, 15 points. Spencer Dinwiddie really proved that they made the right move in trading for him, 22 points, 10 points from the free throw line, and then Jalen Brunson has been playing absolutely incredible. This guy is in line to get paid big.
Yeah, I don't know how the Mavericks are going to hang on to this guy.
24 points for Jalen Brunson, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a great game, and basically drove them almost to victory, but just fell a little bit short there.
He did. Yeah, I mean, both teams didn't really shoot well at all in this game. That's certainly one thing to watch for in Game 2. The Jazz, one of only 2 teams in the league to attempt over 43s a game. They shot 7 of 22 from 3 in that Game 1. If they're able to come out and really hit threes, and it's not just Donovan Mitchell and Bogdanovich, Jordan Clarkson starts to hit threes, Mike Conley starts to hit threes, then they're a completely different team.
Not good news for the Mavericks. Luka Doncic is doubtful for Game 2, so it looks like he is probably going to miss another game. But, hey, they might be able to steal one of these games. They really will. Calvin, Steven wants to know, who is your dark horse for the playoffs?
Man, that's a tough call right now. I think Brooklyn is probably the easy answer, right? Just because they really shouldn't be a 7th seed, and yet here they are as the 7th seed. But I'm not really even sure that counts as a dark horse pick. A lot of people expected them or picked them to be in the finals before the year started. So,
shout out to Priest here. Priest at work and still listening in. Thank you, Priest. We appreciate all your support.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, Brooklyn is probably my pick just because of the way that they got seeded, and I don't really trust any of these other low-seeded teams to start knocking off the 1, 2s, and 3 seeds once they get into the second round.
Yeah, I agree. If you do consider Brooklyn a dark horse, they are going to be my dark horse. Another team I'm looking at here, and, a lot of people are probably going to say this is not a dark horse team, but I don't hear many people choosing them to win the championship, and that's the Warriors, right? Is they're coming back.
I was going to say them too, but again, does that really count as a dark horse pick?
And then most overrated and underrated team in the playoffs.
Ooh, wow. Gosh, that's another tough one. I think Philadelphia was probably everybody's pick for most overrated before the playoffs started, and that might have changed after Game 1. I'm not really sure any of these teams are overrated. Who's the most underrated team? Unfortunately, or I guess it's not unfortunate, but I'm going to pick Miami just because still nobody is talking about this team. They finished the year first in the Eastern Conference, yet everybody expects Milwaukee and Boston and even Philadelphia to be better than them and to beat them out in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Miami, who had a really strong showing in Game 1.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if I were to go with most overrated, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to say the Memphis Grizzlies. And the reason why, this team is an excellent team. I think they have a really bright future ahead of them, but I think they're maybe a year or two early. I have them going to the second round, losing in the second round. I think they're a really good team. I just think that they had an unbelievable season, and maybe they're ranked a little bit higher in the standings than they really deserve as far as competing for a championship.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that they might be ahead of schedule here. They definitely earned that 2 seed, though. I mean, like we said before these playoffs started, they, on paper, might be the best team in the NBA if you just look at the numbers.
Yeah.
So I don't know about how overrated they are. Maybe they're not ready for the moment, but also we'll talk about that series here in a second. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back, have a really strong game 2, and that series is even. So,
last thoughts on the Jazz, Cal, before we move on to the second game on Saturday.
Well, just to reiterate what I said before, I'm calling out Rudy Gobert for game 2. He has got to show up and play better. He's got to give them more than 5 points. Otherwise, they might, like you said, be in danger of losing a game here to a Dallas Mavericks team that is playing without their star, and really, shouldn't have much business winning any of these games. Mm-hmm. And also, another key for me to watch in that game 2 is 3-point shooting. The Jazz shot it really horribly in game 1, 7 of 22 from the field. They attempt over 40 a game, so I expect them to come out guns a-blazing here in game 2 from 3.
Yeah, the Jazz need to play better. That's just bottom line. They have to play better. They have to take advantage of these games where Luka Doncic is not available. If they want to win this series, if Luka Doncic comes back in game 3, game 4, and the Mavericks were able to split the games between then, it's not good for the Jazz.
Dallas wins game 2, they're playing with house money, even if the series is even.
Yep. All right, moving on, Calvin. We had an exciting second game on Saturday. The Timberwolves go to Memphis and steal a game 130-117. However, Calvin, the highlight of this game, I know you were excited. This was one of the most excited games you were to watch this offseason. The most exciting part of this game for me is we see another protester chain herself to the basket in this game.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous out here, man.
It took security multiple minutes to remove her from the court, to break the chain or cut the chain. What is going to happen in game 2, Calvin? Because
I don't know. How can you top what's happening here? I'm not really sure. Somebody's going to make their own parachute and parachute in from the top deck. I really don't know.
I mean, you glue yourself to the floor for the last game, then this game, chain yourself to the basket. I don't know what to think about the Minnesota Timberwolves owner at this point. Glenn Taylor is apparently killing birds or something that is upsetting all these protesters. Chicken is a bird.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it's chickens are the animals that people are upset about, and I'm sure he secretly is loving this, right? Because the team is undefeated when people do stunts like this. So he's just saying, bring it on.
And more people know his name.
Yeah.
All right, so to the actual game here, Calvin. It was a high-scoring game. Minnesota is just playing much better than I anticipated. We saw them win with Towns fouling out, not having that great of a game. He had a good game in this game. 29 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, a block. He only had 3 fouls, so he seemed to kind of figure that out.
Didn't pick up his first foul until the second half, I believe.
And then a huge game by Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, welcome to the playoffs, 36 points. Other than that, those two guys, you had 23 off the bench with Beasley.
He was huge for them.
But other than that, D'Angelo Russell kind of disappeared again. Some of these other guys disappeared, and it didn't matter for this Minnesota team.
No, it did not. Anthony Edwards has officially arrived, as you said, in the playoffs. He's officially arrived in the NBA. This dude he's an absolute stud. And he's so young. It's just crazy to me. But if he continues to play like this, they are an absolute problem. They are going to need more out of D'Angelo Russell, only 2 of 11. But when you get 23 off the bench from Malik Beasley, 4 of 10 from 3, and Jaden McDaniels played really well too. 15 points off the bench, 7 rebounds. 2 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. This game was exactly as advertised. Fast and furious. Mm-hmm. If you blinked, you might have missed 20 points in this game. And we also talked about how free throws would be a critical part of this game, right? Minnesota last in the league in free throw attempts given up to their opponent per game. The Grizzlies shot 43 free throws in this game, only made 32 of them. And the Timberwolves were 24 of 27 at the free throw line. That right there is basically the difference in this game. I'm not worried about Memphis, though, for one reason. Jaren Jackson Jr. only played 24 minutes in this game because of foul trouble. He was in foul trouble right from the beginning. He still managed to have 7 blocks with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Wild.
That is insane. So if he stays on the floor longer, I expect him to shoot better. He's going to score more than 12 points. If he stays out of foul trouble, the Grizzlies have a much, much better chance to take control of this series again. Steven Adams the same way. He was in foul trouble as well, also only 24 minutes.
And Dylan Brooks was also in foul trouble in this game. Ja Morant shot 20 free throws in this game. That just goes to show how aggressive he was in this game. He just put his head down, got to the basket, got to the free throw line, made 16 of those, which is great. 32 points for him, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal. An amazing game for Ja Morant. Unfortunately, Memphis does lose, but yes, Calvin, on the bright side, I think they will play much better in Game 2. It is at home. They definitely need to get a win in Game 2. Otherwise, I'd be a little worried going back to Minnesota with all the protesters down 0-2.
Well, the protesters have no problem traveling, it seems, so they might have to worry about that no matter what. But you're right, they can't afford to go down 0-2 against the number 1 scoring team in the league who is playing really, really hot right now.
Yep. So biggest takeaway from Minnesota at Memphis before we move on here?
I think the biggest takeaway overall is Anthony Edwards is a flat-out star. He's a problem. The Grizzlies were playing multiple guys on him all night. Dylan Brooks, who did miss a bunch of time there at the end of the year, I expect him to be really, really physical with him in Game 2. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to make a difference because Anthony Edwards is a really physical guy himself, and he's just so skilled. I mean, we've seen him all year long attack the rim at will, but in this game, he was finessing his way to the rim, just sidestepping, Euro-stepping around guys left and right. He's really figuring it out very quickly here.
Yep. Yes, he is. Game 2 should be very, very exciting, and it is tomorrow. All right, moving on here, Calvin. We have the Toronto Raptors visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. The talk has been about Joel Embiid going for MVP, James Harden, what potentially he would do in this game. But the absolute stud and the hero is one of your favorite players, Tyrese Maxey, 38 big points, 5 of 8 from three-point range. Incredible game from Tyrese Maxey, and Philadelphia wins.
Yep. Called this on draft day when Philadelphia took him with the I believe it was 21st overall pick two drafts ago. This dude is another young stud. I mean, we're going to be talking about these young players in the league for years and years and years, right? It's the first time in NBA history, playoff history, that 4 players age 22 or younger scored 30 or more points in a playoff game. And it almost happened on the same day, I think.
Yeah.
Did it happen on the same day?
Yeah, it's wild.
So, yeah, I mean, everybody, when James Harden got to Philadelphia, people were saying this is the next Shaq and Kobe. They might have already had it.
I said that. I'm not going to lie.
They might have already had it before James Harden got there.
Yeah, it's for me, the takeaway from this game is everyone's like, Matisse Thybulle, what's going to happen when they go to Toronto and he can't play? He came off the bench, played 19 minutes in this game, 3 points, 1 field goal attempt, 1 made. You know, everyone talks about the defense, but Philadelphia won this game by 20. I think Matisse Thybulle missing games 3 and 4 in Toronto is no big deal.
Well, it's no big deal if Philadelphia can score like this, right? You know, even James Harden, who didn't shoot well overall from the field, he was still 4 of 7 from 3. And Philadelphia as a team shot 50% from outside.
Yep.
Toronto stands no chance if they're going to come out and do that. And another thing that needs to be mentioned here, Scotty Barnes, who almost had a triple-double in 32 minutes, rolls his ankle when Joel Embiid falls on him. It looked real bad. He's going to miss game 2. That's a bigger issue for the Raptors than Matisse Thybulle not playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, in my opinion.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think my original pick, let's see here, I had Toronto losing in 5 games. I don't know if it's going to go 5 at this point. If Philadelphia can keep this up on the offensive end of the floor, we both talked about Joel Embiid and how he was going to beast and have huge performances. 19 and 15 is pretty big, but I was expecting Joel Embiid to have 30 in this game. I think he can go for 30 in this series. I think Toronto's seriously in trouble here.
I do too. Exactly like you just said, the fact that Embiid only scores 19 points when he averaged 30 a game for the season, and Toronto lost by 20. They were down by 20 for most of this game. Mm-hmm. That does not bode well for them.
And I got to give a shout-out to your guy, Pascal Siakam. 24 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks. Really kept him in this game. Siakam, Barnes are the reason the Raptors even had a chance, if they didn't have a chance in this game. But it's good to see Philadelphia starting out on the right foot here. It really is.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts on this game before we move on here?
I think this series is over. If Scotty Barnes isn't able to come back, and even if he does try to tough it out, a severely sprained ankle, it takes a long time to recover. So his lateral quickness is probably not going to be there for a while. As a defender, you really, really need that.
Yep.
It's going to be a big, big blow to the Raptors. And, if the Sixers are we didn't even mention Tobias Harris had 26 points in this game. Mm-hmm. He's like the forgotten guy now on this team, yep. Which he is probably just loving because he's getting the best shots he's gotten in a long time. And if he, keeps up the hot shooting as well, it's just too much firepower for Toronto to overcome.
It really is. All right, next up we have my most exciting game, or the game I was looking forward to most on Saturday, and that was Golden State against Denver. The Warriors win 123-107. We got to see, no Steph Curry, Steph Curry came off the bench in this game, played 22 minutes, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal. Seems to be getting right back in the rhythm. No problems for Golden State in this game as they completely dominate. 19 points for Klay Thompson. Jordan Poole had an amazing 30-piece. And, Denver doesn't really have much to answer back. They have the Joker. He had 25, 10, and 6. 3 steals, a block in that game, was in foul trouble. But where is Denver going to find the offense, Calvin?
That's a very good question because Will Barton added 24 points himself. That's probably above what you would expect from him. But to me, it comes down to bench depth, which is one of the things we talked about before this series started, right? The Warriors just have, again, too many bodies. If Steph is going to come off the bench and score 16, but Jordan Poole goes for 30, it was a pool party, like Mark Jones said.
Yep.
That there's just not much you can do to overcome that, I think, if you're Denver. I mean, this team's too good. They're too deep. And they're really solid defensively, too. So they're just going to make it hard for Denver to score. It's unfortunate because Denver is so depleted with injuries. Who knows what this team will look like next year, fully healthy. And this series certainly would have been much more exciting if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were playing. But that's the way it goes. Sometimes you just don't have your full team available. And unfortunately for Denver, I think they're looking at an early exit too.
And we got to see a Boogie Cousins ejection in this game. That's exciting, right? Especially for us Kings fans.
Always exciting.
He does not disappoint. Steven wants to know, how many sweeps will we see in round 1?
Man, I only picked one before before all of these series started. Of course, injuries, change things mid-series like that. I'm still, excuse me, I still don't think you're going to see that many. But certainly the Philadelphia series now is one to really watch with Scotty Barnes being hurt. I think Philadelphia can really take control of the momentum. That could very well be a sweep. Miami's looking like they might sweep as well. But other than that, I'm expecting all these other teams to get at least one game.
Yeah, I think the only sweep that I predicted was the Chicago Bulls getting swept. But we'll see what happens. I mean, as you mentioned,
even that series,
yeah.
The Bulls really hung in there tough and had one of the worst shooting performances maybe in playoff history. They still had a chance to win there with a minute left to go. So,
yeah, and just remember, all these are just the first game of the series, right? So we could look at a game and be like, oh, it's over. It's going to be a sweep. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. But they still have to play the games. Things happen. Injuries, as you mentioned, happen. Momentum happens. Sometimes teams just show up cold. We saw last week a team having to walk to the play-in game because their bus couldn't get there. Yep. So there's all these outside factors that could happen. I only have one, but we could see more. Right? Yeah, we could see more. Yeah. How many 7-game series will we see in the first round? Did you pick any 7-game series?
I did. I have Brooklyn and Boston going 7 games, which I definitely am still on that train. Memphis and Minnesota, I picked it to go 6 games, but I think that could easily go 7 also. Outside of that, I don't think you're going to see a 7-game series in the first round.
I only have one 7-game series picked in this entire playoffs, and it's in the second round. So we will see there. Anything else you want to talk about regarding this Denver Golden State game?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Jokic. The guy had one of the greatest seasons in NBA history, and now he's got to go up against a team that is finally healthy. And just a few years ago, we were talking about them as one of the greatest teams of all time.
Almost healthy.
So I mean, they got all their players playing, right? Like that's much better than Denver can say.
That is true. They're just missing their center, but I think he's out for the rest of the year, right? And Wiseman. We got to see another Draymond Green game here. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 blocks. This dude is getting older, but his game is aging quite fine, just like the wine, which I know he is a big fan of. But Draymond just seems to do everything on the court here. I have to say that I think Ben Simmons is coming back soon for the Nets, and I think he's going to have a very, very similar role to Draymond Green.
I think his role is definitely similar. I don't expect him to play like Draymond Green right away.
Yeah, it might take him some time to kind of get back up. Jordan Poole, man, that guy is incredible. Great player.
Another guy who's making himself a lot of money right now.
So does he move into your 6-man role when you bring Curry back as a starter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That team is so dangerous. It really is. It is a really dangerous team. That's what I'm saying. The Warriors, people are sleeping on the Warriors. I don't hear anybody talking about the Warriors as a favorite or even somebody saying they're going to the finals. I mean, neither of us picked them going to the finals, but they definitely have a shot here if they can remain healthy.
They're just so well put together, so well balanced, and they share the ball. For a team that's got so much star power, 33 assists in this game one. They don't care who takes the shot as long as it's a good open shot.
Yep. Favorite game you watched on Saturday, Cal?
On Saturday? Man, that's tough. Probably that Utah and Dallas game was much more entertaining than I thought it would be, especially for two teams that really didn't shoot very well. I had a lot of fun watching Minnesota and Memphis just because of the pace of that game. It was nice to see all the Warriors play together again for the first time really in 3 seasons. So, but the most fun game I watched was probably Minnesota and Memphis.
Okay. All right. Let's move on here to Sunday. You ready to move on?
Yep.
Real quick, before we do that, Steven wants to know if you guys like the play-in tournament. Does it have an impact on playoffs or not really?
Well, I think it definitely has an impact on the playoffs.
You could ask the Clippers that question.
Ask the Clippers that question. They're not feeling very good about it right now. I'm mixed over. I'm mixed on the play-in tournament. Overall, I still don't like it just because you've got, for example, this year you have a team in the New Orleans Pelicans who, give them a lot of credit, they started off horribly. They made some really good moves at the deadline. They got a more talented team that finished out the regular season on a high note, and they won the play-in tournament. But they're 10 games under 500. They're probably not going to win a single game in the postseason. I'm not saying that the Clippers would have stood a much better chance against Phoenix than New Orleans, but the fact that the play-in tournament exists allows opportunities for bad teams to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
And it's the playoffs. You want to see the best teams play. So
it's exciting for the fan base as far as like if your team is involved because they do have a chance. But overall, I'm not sure exactly what it does. I love having 6 more games, but I think the winner of the play-in tournament is Patrick Beverley watching the Clippers go home. You know, they celebrated after that first game. You know, they were celebrating after the Clippers lost to the Pelicans as well.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on here, the first game of Sunday's games, we have the Miami Heat defeating the winner of a play-in game, the Atlanta Hawks, 115-91. Clint Capella missed this game. We saw him go down in the previous game. He will be reevaluated in about a week, but it's not looking good for the Hawks. They did see John Collins return. He played 21 minutes, 10 points off the bench. But for me, the most disappointing thing about this entire game would be the performance by Trae Young.
Yep.
Only made 1 field goal. I think this is probably his worst game of his NBA career. 1 of 12, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 turnovers. The Miami Heat had his number, Cal.
They sure do. This is just not a fair fight. These teams do not match up very well against each other. Atlanta... they have lived and died by the three-point shot all season long. Only problem is Miami is the number 1 three-point shooting team in the league, and if you look at the three-point shooting in this game, 27.8% for the Hawks, 47.4% for Miami, including 8 of 9 from Duncan Robinson off the bench in 23 minutes. He had 27 points.
Wow.
If that's going to continue, no chance for Atlanta. No chance for probably a lot of teams. But Miami is just a really, really solid perimeter defensive team. Their ability to switch. Bam Adebayo is just not fair. He can guard positions 1 through 5. And that's why Trae Young and Kevin Huerter are going to have a really, really difficult series because they're never going to see the light of day, which was the problem that we kept pointing out with Cleveland in the playing game was they were letting Trae Young walk down the court and shoot 30-foot threes with nobody near him. Miami's not going to do that.
Yeah, this is the ultimate reason that LeBron left Cleveland for Miami, right, was the system. And they're just not going to let Trae Young and Atlanta get those shots off. But it's crazy, man. If I were to tell you, Calvin, that Tyler Hero had 6 points in this game, went 3 for 11 from the field, 0 for 4 from three-point range, you would have been like, oh, it was either a close game or Miami would have lost that game.
But it's even more than that. A combined 22 points from Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero averages 20 a game himself.
Yep.
And they still won this game going away. So, yeah, Atlanta, I'm sorry. You better make your reservations in Cancun now.
Miami does a great job of hiding Duncan Robinson on defense and showcasing him on offense. This game is a perfect example. As you said, 27 points, 9 of 10 from the field, 8 of 9 from the three-point line.
And some of those threes he hit, the defender might have been wearing the same jersey with him at the same time. They were right up in his face. Didn't even faze him at all.
Yeah, 21 points for the leader, Jimmy Butler, and an amazing 16 points from their free agent offseason acquisition, PJ Tucker. Calvin, I might be leaning towards this being a sweep.
It's definitely looking like that to me from after this game 1. And again, injuries changed this series, right? I'm not saying Atlanta would have won this series if Clint Capella is healthy, but not having him in the middle there is a big, big loss, even with John Collins coming back, but he still, doesn't look quite like himself.
Yeah, Steven, I think there's no way Atlanta comes back to upset Miami. alert here. I chose Miami to go to the finals, so that's going to happen. But without Clint Capella, Atlanta is really, really down players here. Clint Capella, as I mentioned last week, I think is the key to this team's success. When you shoot that many threes, it's so valuable to have a big guy like Capella inside that can either follow those up, get a rebound and a putback, or kick it back out and give you a second opportunity. I know they got John Collins back, but John Collins does not do what Clint Capella does on the offensive glass. He just does not.
Definitely. I mean, this series is just Miami's strengths are too much better, and they counteract perfectly what Atlanta's strengths are.
Yep.
They're a phenomenal defensive team. Atlanta is the number one offensive efficiency team in the league all year, and it's been one of the best three-point shooting teams. But they're going to have a really hard time getting those things going. Even without Clint Capella, everybody thinks his impact is all rebounding and defense. He's a huge part of what they do on offense in the pick-and-roll game, Trae Young throwing him lobs. So not having that out there, only 91 points and less than 30% from three.
Yep.
Atlanta will not win any game putting up those numbers.
Gallinari leads the Hawks with 17 points in that game. He's going to have 17 in a few games here for them to even have a chance, but he cannot be the highest scorer. He needs to have 17 points and be like the third or the fourth scorer on this Hawks team for them to even have a chance against this Miami Heat team. That's just... Miami is set up so well here in the fact that they just have these guys. They have guys that are consistent and regular, and then they have guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson that can just get hot on a dime and totally blow out teams, and that's exactly what happened in this game.
Are you going to give the Chuck guarantee that this is a sweep?
I'm not guaranteeing any sweeps other than the Chicago Bulls losing to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Straight to the heart right there.
All right, moving on here, Calvin. This is the game that I really want to talk about. The most exciting game of the weekend. Brooklyn visits Boston, where Kyrie Irving flips off a bunch of fans. And ultimately, Brooklyn loses 115-114 to a game-winning layup. Don't say that very often. A game-winning layup by Jason Tatum.
A game-winning layup that really shouldn't have even happened, but it happened.
What are your thoughts on this game, Cal?
Man, there's so much to talk about with this game. We don't really have enough time, actually, but this is definitely going to be the most exciting. This might be one of the most exciting, one or two most exciting playoff series for the whole playoffs. I mean, this is an Eastern Conference Finals worthy matchup that we are lucky to get to see in the first round. Kyrie was amazing. He needs to be a little careful, though. I mean, everybody's talking about how it's real great. He's embracing this dark side of the moon thing with Boston and all that stuff. He needs to check his emotions a little bit, though, because if he somehow walks his way into a suspension for a game because he's getting into it with fans or something, Brooklyn's out. They don't have any chance if they lose Durant or Irving for any of these games. So that's the only thing that I'll say there. I agree with what Charles Barkley said on TNT in that the Nets have to have these two guys play great in order to win.
Yep.
They're both capable of playing great every time, though, so that's why I'm not going to count them out necessarily. But you really got to see in this game why Boston rose to the number 2 seed. Their defense was phenomenal in the fourth quarter, down the stretch, on all these guys, Irving, Durant. None of them were able to get clean looks, which for two of the best scorers, maybe of all time, that's almost impossible to do. And I give a huge shout out to Al Horford. I thought this guy was dead to rights. After that failed experiment in Philadelphia, I thought his career was over. This guy guarded Kevin Durant one-on-one in clutch moments and didn't give up buckets. I don't even know how that's possible, but he did it. And that is one of the biggest reasons why Boston has a great chance to not only win this series, but any series that they play in.
Yeah, I was astounded by the defense that Al Horford, because I see KD and I see him going to the basket and he can't get past him. I'm like, who is it? Al Horford?
Yeah.
And then as soon as Jason Tatum switches back on him, KD goes right around him, gets whatever he wants. I knew Al Horford was a good player, but I didn't know he could do that. That was incredible.
Well, he certainly was I used to see that on a regular basis when he was in Atlanta and they were, the number 1 seed in the East. He could cover a ton of ground, and then his ability to stretch the floor as well. But to get 20 points out of him and 15 rebounds and have him play defense like that on Durant down the stretch, not to mention he's the guy that they're blitzing Kyrie Irving with too a lot of times. So huge shout out to Al Horford for the way he played in game 1. I think Boston has to be feeling, even though it was a really tightly contested game, they only won at the buzzer, I think Boston's got to be feeling pretty good about themselves.
Yeah, and they had him just a few years ago on the roster. They gave up on Al Horford, and they realized we made a big mistake, and they brought him back, and he is definitely paying dividends for them. Kevin Durant, 23 points in this game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block, 6 turnovers for him. Did not shoot well from the three-point line, only 1 for 5. But Kyrie Irving is the one that did it all for the Nets. 39 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals. He had more blocks than drinks of water in this game with 1. Incredible game from Kyrie Irving. 9 and 9 from the free throw line, 6 of 10 from three-point range. He was in his bag, as Mark Jones says.
He was. The guy is sensational. He's been playing at an all-world level ever since he really came back to playing for the Nets in the first place. And now he's just going to continue this pace, I think. His shooting has been off the charts. But yeah, the problem with Brooklyn is where, just like we were talking about with Denver or some of these other teams, where is the rest of the offense going to come from? I'm looking at Seth Curry.
Yep.
9 points in this game, 1 of 4 from 3, 3 of 7 overall. They need him for his outside shooting, but they need him to be the third scoring option on this team right now.
Yeah, I think Seth Curry's got to step up. I think Bruce Brown needs to step up in this game. I thought he was huge for them late in the season, hitting threes, getting back cuts to the basket. Only 5 points for him in this game, which is 4 below his season average. If he gets his 9 points, Brooklyn wins this game. If they would have just got a stop there at the end of this game, Brooklyn wins this game. I think that this, you could take a lot of different things from this game, but for me, Kevin Durant only had 23 points in this game. I know Kyrie Irving went off and had an amazing game, but, Kevin needs to be a little bit better. I don't say that very often.
No, he does. You're absolutely right. I mean,
he needs
Stephen
to be
A.
a little
Smith
better.
Is pretty much saying he's the reason the Nets lost this game. I'm not going to go that far. But yeah, 6 turnovers, way too many. The shooting, it's Kevin Durant. I'm not worried about him. He'll come back and hit threes, in the next, for the rest of the series. Like, he could be on fire. It's just what he does. But yeah, he does need to take care of the ball a little bit better, and I expect him to do that. This was a really physical game. That's another thing I'm looking for going forward in this series is how it's officiated. There were a lot of guys in foul trouble in this game, but they also let a ton of stuff go. And this is maybe the most heatly contested series in the playoffs. These teams really don't like each other. So technicals, the way the game's officiated, that will for sure be something to watch going forward.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this series. I'm just going to go over Boston real quick. As I mentioned, they won 115-114, 31 points for Jason Tatum in this game, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 5 turnovers, 20 points, 15 rebounds for Al Horford, 20 points for Marcus Smart, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 23 points for Jaylen Brown. We didn't see much off the bench from Boston. They had a combined 17 points off the bench. I know they're dealing with some injury concerns as well, but it was a good game. For me, if I'm Boston, unfortunately I lose this game late at the buzzer, but I'm looking towards this game as a positive, right? We were able to stay in this game without our star player and Kevin Durant playing his best. And you know how the playoffs go and these series go is Boston did what they were supposed to do. They won 1 game at home. If Brooklyn wins this next game in Boston, they're heading home with the advantage. They stole home court. So I know it's only 1 game. It's only 1 win by Boston. But I'm not mad at myself if I'm the Nets yet.
No, I'm not either. And Steven, I believe Ben Simmons says he won't come back before Game 4. It's games 4, 5, and 6. That's the window that he's targeting for his return.
And that's not where the scoring's coming from.
No, definitely not.
All right, man, that was such an exciting game. I can't wait for Game 2. Anything else you want to touch on in this game?
Can't wait for Game 2.
All right.
Can't wait.
All right, moving on. Chicago visits Milwaukee, and they lose 93-86. Probably the lowest scoring game of the weekend. It was a defensive battle here. 24 points for Vucevic, 17 rebounds. Huge game for him. 18 points for Zach LaVine. And other than that, you had 12 points off the bench, but where is the offense going to come from on this Chicago Bulls team, Calvin?
Well, the offense is going to come from LaVine, Vucevic, and DeRozan. This team was... LaVine and DeRozan were the best 1-2 punch scoring-wise of any duo in the NBA this year, and the team was one of the better three-point shooting teams in the league. I realize Milwaukee's a very good defensive team, but this is the reason why I'm going to tell you, Barry, that this is not a sweep. Chicago almost won this game on the road, shooting 32% from the field and 19% from three. Vucevic and LaVine were a combined 4 of 20 from outside. That will not happen again. DeMar DeRozan will not go 6 for 25 again. The Bulls will get one game at least in this series.
Okay, that sounds like a very, very hopeful fan there. Moving on to the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 27 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 18 points for Brook Lopez, and 15 points for Drew Holiday. Other than that, 10 points off the bench for Bobby Portis. I think we saw him elbow somebody in the face.
Alex Caruso.
In this game. And Bucks win. Bucks win. I think you have them repeating as champions. Is that correct?
I do have Milwaukee repeating as champions. I love this team. But Chris Middleton's got to pick it up.
Yep.
I mean, we kind of talked about him going into the playoffs. He finished the year still averaging 20 points a game, but it felt like kind of an underwhelming season for him. And he only has 11 in this game 1, 4 of 13 from the field. If the Bucks are going to repeat as champions, he's got to get back to that elite all-star level play.
Yeah, I agree. And, just like the other game, as I mentioned, this is only game 1. The home team won. If you're Chicago, you're not beating yourself up at this point because you're like, hey, we only lost by 7. We're playing against the defending champions in their building. But Calvin, what does Chicago need to do to come out firing in game 2?
Well, they've got to get off to a better start than they did in game 1. I mean, they were laying a ton of bricks early. They dug themselves a huge hole because Milwaukee was able to get out to an early lead. But I'm not panicking if I'm Chicago. Like I said, I've got big-time scorers on this team who had horrible shooting nights. Mm-hmm. I expect them to come out and play much better in game 2, and then you go from there.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, too. All right, let's move on here to another blowout. This is the Phoenix Suns defeating the New Orleans Pelicans 110-99. The final score is much closer than this game actually was. Phoenix led by 23 at one point in this game. The Pelicans shot just below 38% from the field. However, they were able to get some garbage time points to make their fans feel a little bit better. Brandon Ingram, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 18 points for Valanciunas, 25 rebounds.
Yeah,
huge game number for him. 25 points for CJ McCollum. Basically, their big 3 did it for them. Larry Nance, 14 points off the bench, and they had absolutely no chance in this game. 55 points combined between Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Ayton put in another big game with 21 points. Calvin, I should have picked a sweep here.
Yeah, this series does not look like it's going to go longer than 4 games. It's just another one of those situations where New Orleans, bless their hearts, they played great down the stretch. They won the play-in tournament, and your prize is playing the best team in the league, or at least the team that's been the best team in the league record-wise all season long. They just don't have enough. I mean, their bench really is not going to provide anything for them. Larry Nance with 14 points off the bench, that is maybe even a little higher than I would expect. But Phoenix just has too much. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, 4 blocks in this game. I think he defended something like 34 shots, and the Pelicans only made 7 of those shots that he defended. He's a huge game changer inside. And Chris Paul, when he's healthy, I mean, the type of game that this guy had, 30 points, 10 assists, 3 steals, 7 rebounds, and he missed 4 shots.
Wow. He's playing for a new contract.
All-time great point guard. He almost makes Devin Booker's game seem insignificant,
Yeah. Not that I just noticed we got Boogie Cousins up there in a Pelicans jersey. Not that the Clippers really had a chance in this series, but I think this is going to be the series that everyone's going to point to, and they're going to say this is why the play-in tournament is a bad idea. Because teams like the Pelicans that get hot late in the season, get lucky and win the play-in series, get matched up with the number 1 seed in the West, and just totally get annihilated in this series. I see what you're saying here in the chat, Steven, and I agree. If Zion can come back next season and be healthy, be his normal productive self, I like the Pelicans team. I think they're definitely on the up and up. But as far as this series goes, they are dead in the water. It's a dead Pelican getting beat by the sun.
Yeah. In the desert, no water anywhere near that Pelican. It's over. You're right. You do kind of you love the idea of what this New Orleans team is going to look like with Zion coming back. But you still need to see them play together. It's not a foregone conclusion that you add Zion into this team and they're already one of the 4 best teams in the Western Conference. So,
most exciting game of the entire weekend for you, Calvin? I already know mine. I'm picking Nets Celtics.
Oh, easily. I don't see how you could pick another game.
Okay.
There were a lot of really, really good games and a lot of exciting moments in the playoffs, but that game alone, it's got everything that you want in a playoff series.
I was just really overall excited to watch the NBA playoffs. We're finally back to like a normal schedule, right? Last season was kind of shortened and dates were moved around, stuff like that. It finally feels like we're back in real life and we are here with the NBA playoffs. I'm excited for all these game 2s. I really am.
Oh, yeah.
Should we talk about them?
Better.
Should we talk about them?
Mm-hmm.
We got 3 awesome games today. First off, we have Toronto visiting Philadelphia for game 2 of Raptors Sixers. Then next up, we have the Utah Jazz visiting the Dallas Mavericks to play another game without Luka Doncic. And then we have Denver going into Golden State for game 2 of Nuggets Warriors. Real quick, Calvin, before we dive into these individual games, which game are you most excited to watch today?
It's probably Golden State again, just because these other 2 series, they're exciting for their own reasons, but health is going to play a big fact. Health plays a big role in all of these series, but the Nuggets have been playing without Michael Porter and Jamal Murray basically all season. These other series have fresh new injuries that are really going to change the complexity of both of those series. So I'm excited to see Golden State at full strength again, basically is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is really exciting to see them at full strength. For me, I think, just overall, I'm really excited to see what Philadelphia is going to do here. Was that a one-off game for Tyrese Maxey where he just played incredible? What's James Harden going to do in this game?
Yep.
And how
all eyes on James once again.
How is Joel Embiid going to respond after what many would call a mediocre game for him? And that's not a knock on him at all. That's just showing what we really expect from this guy, because how incredible of a player he really is. But I'm really looking forward to that first game. I want to know whether Philadelphia is the real deal or not. I know what I'm going to get out of Golden State. I think Utah should have a much better game, without Luka Doncic than they did in the last one. But I'm really looking forward to see how Philadelphia performs today.
Yeah, I think definitely all eyes are going to be on James Harden in Philadelphia for as long as they're playing in the postseason. Steven, by the way, thank you for all these comments, man. It's really been great to have you in the chat here for this show. I love your question here about the 82-game season. I think there's definitely there's a lot to talk about with that. And my biggest reason for why it might be too many games is you just look across the NBA and how many big name players, superstar level players, missed a ton of time in the past couple of seasons.
Yep.
So it begs the question. A lot of people wondered what type of impact COVID and the bubble, going from the break to all of a sudden playoff basketball again, the schedule being shortened and all that stuff, not as much time to recover in the offseason for some playoff teams. A lot of people wondered what type of impact that would have on player health in the league. And player health is down right now. It's a huge problem for the NBA to have all these guys miss. I mean, you can look at a lot of All-Stars miss the entire season this year. So I think there's definitely something to focus on when it comes to that. They might want to adjust the schedule, make it 72 games or something like that. And I agree with you on all your picks too. I got the Sixers, Warriors, and Jazz winning games too.
I'm a little mixed on the 82 games thing, and this is why. First off, looking from a fan's perspective, I want more basketball to watch, right? That's selfish of me. I, acknowledge that, but it is exciting to watch.
But wouldn't you want to watch less basketball, but with all the players that you really want to see, as opposed to 82 games when you've got meaningless games that have 6-7 guys out?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, part of that was COVID this season, right? Where guys were just out, where we missed like half of the team.
But I'm
due
talking
to
about
COVID.
actual injuries.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we are seeing a delayed response from everybody being locked inside from the pandemic, and all these players missing out on their normal schedules, their normal rehab, their normal things. We saw it with Klay Thompson. He said that his rehab during the pandemic took a step in the wrong direction. Then he goes and re-injures himself. I think if you look before this, there are a lot of players that played all 82 games or very close to it. I'm talking like 2019, 18, all before then. We even saw LeBron do it, and we saw him, play a ton of games at like age 37 and all that. But I do understand the ability that some players' bodies do not last the same, right? And some players need a little bit more rest. I understand that. I don't know exactly how the league's going to figure that out. They need to. That's something they need to address. But if I could take this topic in a different direction, this is why I picked the Brooklyn Nets to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Kyrie Irving, as amazing of a player as he's been, has had all sorts of injuries in his college career, his NBA career. His body doesn't seem to be one of these guys that can last for 82 games. He's a part-time player this season. Now he's a full-time player. He's coming into the playoffs refreshed, ready to go. I could say a similar thing for Ben Simmons. I know he's dealing with back injuries, and we don't know how long it's been since he's played. But I could see if he is able to come back game 4, maybe it takes him a series to readjust, maybe 2 series. But when we're getting closer and closer to the Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals, he could find his stride and be perfectly healthy at that point.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And ultimately, I think it's moot, right? Like, every professional sports league they're not reducing games, they're adding games. The NFL just added
baseball is way too long.
Yeah, baseball.
I'll give you that one.
That's not even I don't think we even need to go there. It's 162 games is absurd. And that's the one sport where, injuries do happen, right? But it's the least contact sport out of all of those. So you generally are safer when it comes to major injuries in baseball. Anyway, but that's a whole nother topic. And professional sports owners, there's just too much money. They're not going to lose out on dropping these games, especially after COVID. And, sports leagues took huge hits financially all over the world. There's no argument from their perspective to be made right now about reducing the number of games.
Yep. Couple injury notes here as far as this Raptors-Sixers game. As Calvin mentioned earlier in the podcast, Scotty Barnes is out. Gary Trent Jr. is listed as day-to-day, and Thaddeus Young is also listed as day-to-day. Charles, Bassey is out for the Sixers, and Jaden Springer is listed as day-to-day.
Doesn't matter. Those two guys wouldn't have played anyway.
Right. Without Scotty Barnes, this is not looking good for the Toronto Raptors at all.
No, it's huge. I mean, his impact defensively, offensively, we're talking about the, I think, most people's front runner for Rookie of the Year this year. It's going to be a huge, huge loss.
I just want to look back here real quick. I think this game was on April 7th. The Toronto Raptors were able to defeat the Philadelphia 76ers. It was April 7th, 119-114. I'm just looking here at the box score. Only 8 points for Tobias Harris, 18 for Danny Green, 30 for Embiid, 22 for Maxey, 13 for James Harden, 30 points for Gary Trent Jr. in a huge game, 37 for Pascal Siakam. Calvin, what does Toronto need to do to mirror this game and get another win over this Philadelphia team?
Well, they're going to have similar types of games out of their big guys like you just mentioned. Pascal Siakam and all them, they've got to get it going offensively. But more importantly, they've got to be better defensively. They allowed Philadelphia to shoot over 50% from both the field and from the three-point line in game one. 131 points is way too much to give up. You're not going to win many playoff games. You're not going to win many regular season games giving up 130 points. So they've got to be better in transition. I thought Philadelphia did a really good job of getting out and running. Tyrese Maxey was all over the court. And that's the real key for them, right? Like, you know, they did a pretty good job containing Embiid, only 19 points, 5 of 15 shooting. James Harden had an okay game, over 20 points, 4 of 7 from 3, but you allow Tyrese Maxey to go for almost 40. That just cannot happen again.
You want to make a prediction on the game today?
I'm still going to take Philadelphia to win just because I just talked about how they need to be much better defensively, and they're going to be without one of their top defenders in Scotty Barnes. So still taking the Sixers.
I think we're all taking the Sixers here. The question for you is, how many points are they going to win by?
I expect it to be another double-digit win. I really do.
Okay.
I think James Harden will be better. I don't know about how much better, but I expect him to have a more James Harden-like game. I think Embiid will score more than 19 points as well. And that just allows for guys like Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey to, again, have all the pressure taken off of them. They'll get open looks. It's just one of those things where they've got too many options right now for a team that's going to be limited without one of their better defenders.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's move on to Game 2. The Utah Jazz head back to Dallas to face the Mavericks. Luka Doncic is listed as day-to-day. However, I think he will miss this game. Frank Ntilikina is also listed as out. And for the Utah Jazz, Trent Forrest is out. What are your thoughts on this game, Cal? Utah is favored by 5.
I like Utah in this game again, you know, for the reasons that we mentioned earlier. I think Utah will shoot better from outside in this game. That's been one of their strengths for the past couple of seasons. And again, it's just an issue for Dallas, who has to have such a perfect game offensively without Luka Doncic. They're going to be at home. They'll have the crowd behind them again. So that's definitely going to help. But I think Utah will play a little bit better offensively, which means they'll probably end up winning the game. You know, I don't expect them to blow it out by any means, unless they shoot 50% from 3 or something like that. But
I think Utah is due for one of those really, really good offensive performances. Dallas going into this series with 4-0, but that is without their star player, or that was with their star player in Luka Doncic, who they no longer have. They didn't have him for game 1. As I mentioned, he is doubtful for game 2. The Mavericks team basically needs to keep this ship floating while the captain is gone, and hopefully they can bring him back and this ship hasn't taken on too much water that they can bail themselves out. But unfortunately, I think that not having Luka Doncic for multiple games on this series will ultimately be too much for the Dallas Mavericks to handle.
I agree with that. I also think Dallas is the one team in the postseason that has to change their style of play more than any other team in order to win this series. And what I mean by that is Dallas has been the slowest paced team in the league all year long. And that's because they've got a great half-court offense with a guy like Luka Doncic, who is so good at scoring and finding other guys to get their shots, right? Mm-hmm. So without him, you're playing against a team that has another guy or a player who's being mentioned for Defensive Player of the Year again, and they're a good half-court defense team because they have that rim protector up front, right? So Dallas really has to start pushing the ball and playing at a faster pace so they can get looks inside before Utah's defense gets set.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to take Utah in this game. I just am. I can't bet on the Mavericks without Luka Doncic.
I agree 100%.
I can't. All right, moving on to the third and last game of the day. Denver goes back to Golden State to face the Warriors. The Warriors are predicted by ESPN. They have a 77.7% chance
Pretty wild.
of winning this game. As we mentioned, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., both out for the Denver Nuggets. It's Nikola Jokic against the world and the Golden State Warriors in this game. I'm picking the Warriors. I think Steph Curry will end up starting in this game, and I think Jordan Poole will probably have 20-something points off the bench, lead them to a victory. I'm expecting a double-digit win by the Warriors.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any reason why Golden State shouldn't win this game by more than 10. The only thing I will say is Jokic is a great enough player that he could change one game in this series. So if he comes out and goes for another 40-point, 15 rebound, 11 assist game, obviously Denver's going to have a much better chance to win. And I expect him to have at least one game like that in this series. I don't know if it'll be tonight, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, we have another exciting schedule, another exciting day of basketball here. I hope you guys are excited because I really am. And then we're going to do another episode of Basketball at the Bar tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Hawaii Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Calvin, let's jump here into some injury updates. As I mentioned, John Collins is back for the Atlanta Hawks. He missed quite a few weeks with, I think, a finger injury. He is back and ready to play. Clint Capella is out for at least a week to be reevaluated. We saw Steph Curry return. Scotty Barnes is out due to injury. Any other injuries we need to keep an eye on here? As I mentioned, Luka Doncic.
Yeah, Luka for sure. Clint Capella is another one. I think he is probably going to be very unlikely to play for the next couple of games. And then it's just a question of when Ben Simmons decides he's ready to play as well.
Yeah, Lou Williams is still out for the Hawks. We have Robert Williams is out for the Celtics, at least for the first round series. And then Ben Simmons hopefully will be back within a couple days. We'll see. That's exciting. That's really exciting. You're still not sold on Ben Simmons and what he can bring to the team this offseason, right? This playoffs.
I just think it's, people are talking a lot about Zion returning, right? At least we've seen Zion doing all these crazy 360 dunks and through the legs dunks. Ben Simmons, I want to know the actual number of days he's practiced in the last year, let alone played. And he's just gotten traded to a brand new team. I don't think he's practiced with them once since he's been traded. So, he's done some workouts and stuff, but he hasn't actually practiced with this team. He hasn't played since June of last season. They're asking an awful, awful lot of him to throw him into this type of series with a Boston team that's going to be breathing down their neck. It's a big, big hurdle for him to climb, I think.
Yeah, they are definitely rooting for the Philadelphia 76ers to lose. Whatever momentum that Ben Simmons can gain in these few games, if he does have to end up going against his old team in the 76ers and go back into that building and play in that atmosphere, I think that will negatively impact him. So, I don't root against any player. I want him to come back strong and healthy. And it'll be exciting to see what he can bring to the Brooklyn Nets. They've had an up and down season. As we mentioned, 11-game losing streak. They were so good early on in the season. Then they fall down in the standings. But, hey, they have a chance here. They do have a chance to upset the number 2 seed in the Boston Celtics.
Oh, they have a very good – well, they have a definite chance, a more than a puncher's chance.
Yep. You want to give an update on Imani Bates?
Yes, Imani Bates, one of the highest-rated high school recruits in the country last season, decided to go play his freshman year at the University of Memphis with Penny Hardaway. He is announcing that he will enter the transfer portal. Had a pretty disappointing season there. Memphis as a team overall had a pretty disappointing season. They just never seemed to kind of reach the potential that they all expected to. This guy's a kid from the southeastern portion of Michigan and set all kinds of records there, projected to be one of the top picks in the eventual draft. So somebody is going to land a really, really talented player here in the transfer portal. You don't usually see the top 2 or 3 recruits in the country entering the transfer portal.
I think he declared for Michigan State, right, and then backed out to go to Memphis.
He originally verbally said he would go to Michigan State and then opted out. Yeah.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him. I don't know if any of you guys play NBA 2K, but Calvin and I are big NBA 2K fans, and Calvin would always draft Imani Bates.
Oh, every time.
And the dude would turn into a complete stud. So, we welcome him to the league, and we want to see what he can bring. All right, Calvin, we don't have a ton of people watching live, but I do want to open it up here into Q&A. It is the last part of this show. If you did enjoy the show, please make sure to hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the chat or down below in the comments. If you have any thoughts on any of these teams, let us know which game you or which series you are most excited and waiting for. But Calvin, let's go into Q&A. So I see a bunch of messages here from Steven. I know we've been going back and forth. Any of these that you want to touch on?
Let's see. I think we managed to get most of these.
I saw some early. Oh, Gothan wanted to know what we were drinking. That would be Coors Light. What's on the jukebox? That's our own jam, Gothan. We talked about dark horse for the playoffs. We talked about underrated and overrated teams. Steven says LeBron needs to take his talents to Sacramento. We will call him Sacramento King James. I like it. Priest says, what are your thoughts on the Utah Jazz? I think we touched on that already. All right, I think we answered all these questions. I am just super excited for another day of NBA playoffs, another week of NBA playoffs. We have an action-packed week for you all here. We are doing 5 new live shows this week. This is show 1. Then we'll be live again on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are holding off on the weekend content for now, but we are here. We're drinking some beers. We're talking about basketball, and we're just having an overall awesome time watching these NBA playoffs. I hope you are too. Calvin, anything else you want to say before we end the stream here?
Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have fun watching the games today. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, guys, bars closed here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out all 3 games today, and we will see you tomorrow, as I mentioned, 12 o'clock noon Hawaii time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the channel. Thank you all. Have a good day, you dirty animals, and don't forget to tip your bartender.
I feel like might Jordan, give me the rock and I'm scoring. Ayy, came from the bottom, that's foreign. I swear that I'm up for the sun in the morning. Oof, ayy, I gotta flex. I need a Nike bag, give me the check. I need the money and power, respect, but I promise I'm repping the O to the dead. Ayy, oof, I told them out of my way. I don't got nothing to say. Now they can't run at my pace. Yeah, they know that we ain't the same. 402, we rap the game. I told them this ain't a game.
Yeah, yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball, let the ball.